Well, g'day folks, and welcome back to Great Chesterford Junction Model Railway. In my recent March update for this year, which covered the building of this engine shed, one of my subscribers, Henry, asked me if I could show the process of how I make the corrugated sheets from the aluminium foil trays. So we're going to go through that today and have a look at that. Just a quick one this time, folks, so we'll get into that now. Right, the first thing you need, folks, is some of this aluminium profile. Now, I got this from my local hardware store, and you can see how it's got this tread pattern on it. I don't know what this particular profile is actually used for, but it's this particular one is about 32 millimeters across, and this lip on it here is about 8 millimeters deep, and it's about 8 millimeters there between the two of them, and you've got approximately 3 millimeter gap in the middle, so maybe it's meant to go over sort of as an edge on MDF or plywood. I don't know. As I say, I don't really know what the use is for this particular one, but you can see the corrugations, if you can call it that, or the treads. They're roughly 2 millimeters apart, but it could be a bit closer than that. But this is what we need. So what I've done is I've taken a strip of that, or cut a piece off the strip, and this is 130 millimeters wide. That's just a good size to work with, and I've mounted it on a piece of what used to be a chopping board, nylon chopping board, but you can see how I've mounted it so that the board is thicker than the end of this profile. So yeah, and I've just glued that on there. So this is my thing I use to work with to actually create the corrugations. Of course, the other thing we need is an aluminium baking tray. As I said, these are around $1, or they're probably a bit over $1 now. I haven't bought any for a while. I got mine at a $2 shop, but you can get them in supermarkets, etc. They're usually a bit dearer in supermarkets and possibly kitchen shops. However, yeah, this one's been used, so it's going to be recycled now. Now the best area to use is the base, so now I'm going to cut this out of this particular tray. I've got a dirty great big pair of scissors here I use. They're not designed for this purpose, but I use them for it anyway. So I'll get on and cut that out, and then we'll get back to you. Now I just take a block of wood, and I use that to smooth out the foil here. There's a slight ridge in the base here, which is part of the pattern of the foil, but I just use a piece of wood to smooth out any irregularities in the foil. So yeah, it's just a matter of rubbing it, and obviously you've got to have a nice flat surface, and just rub over it very hard to get rid of any sort of raised areas. You can still see the pattern in it, but that doesn't matter. So that's it. Then I like to square it up, so I use my cutting mat here to do that. But the first thing is I'll give myself a straight edge. I use a straight edge for this, and just a few goes with the blade, gets it off, and then once I've got a straight edge, I can line that up on my cutting mat here against the grid, and you can see that I've got somewhere to start from here, so I can then use one of these horizontal lines to get it completely square. So I'll get on and do that, and I'll come back to you when it's all squared up. Right, I've got it squared up, but you can see that it's actually a bit longer than my jig here. So what I might do is I'll cut this sheet in half. Even then it's fairly big. I might even cut it in thirds actually, to make it easier to use on the jig. So there's a number of ways I can do that. I can sort of go along this way, or I can just cut a thin strip down that way, which is probably easier. I'll just do one strip down that way, and then I can keep the rest for future projects, or make up a whole bunch of them when I feel like it. Right, in the end I just took off a strip that's only 40 mils wide, so that equates to 10 feet in 4mm scale. So a 10-foot sheet is probably pretty good, so that'll be good to go on models, and you can overlap it and all that sort of thing. So we've got a potential 10-foot sheet of corrugated iron. Now the next thing you need, folks, is a scribing tool. Now this tool here is what used to have a very sharp point on it, but I've dulled the end of it, so it's just rounded. So you could use a nail or anything as long as it's got a rounded point here, because this is what you use to form the corrugations. Now I've found what we need to do here is secure this end. Initially, when I first started doing this sort of thing, I'd tape with masking tape one side of this. But because of the shape of this profile here, I can actually wrap this edge around and under and fold it back over the edge of the profile here, and I'll show you how I do that. Yeah, I just turn it over, put the end in there, and literally fold it around, and then turn it over to this side. And because the end of the strip was square, it also ends up square on this, square across here. Right, what we do now is we hold this side of the foil secure across the profile here, take our forming tool, and then start by just running it with quite a firm pressure on an angle. Don't do it vertically like this, but do it on an angle, and then just drag it across the foil. And you can see how it immediately creates this impression in it. Then you just move across to the next one, etc., and just work your way across. Now, what the foil on this side is trying to do is fold up, but because I've got it secured within the aluminium profile, it can't do that. So we just make these and work our way across until we get a sheet. Now of course the bit that's folded under will have to be trimmed off as well. So now we've got our corrugated iron there. Now you can see it's trying to fold up. So what we'll do now is remove that from the jig, trim it up, and then I'll show you how you flatten it out. So we just slide it out, put the jig to one side, and then gently ease out the piece that was folded in the jig. I know you're losing a bit of material here, but it doesn't seem to matter. We get quite a lot out of the base of the foil tray anyway. So there we are. I've trimmed it off, but you can see it's all warped, etc. So what we do is we take it back to the jig, lay it upside down this time, but find the corrugations and lay it back into its corrugations, and then just gently work over the back of it. You don't have to do the whole thing usually, but just work over the back of it. Very light pressure this time, just to run through the corrugations very lightly, and you don't have to do all of them, just, and you can see it's starting to straighten out a bit. So we'll do a bit more. And that's improved it a lot. You can see that it's pretty much straightened out now. That's pretty good. So yeah, so that's how it's done. And so you can make these sheets basically as long as you jig or as long as you want to. But if you're starting to think about doing scale models and so on, and roofs and all that sort of thing, you try and work on sheets that would be that size. I mean, this one is let's see, that's about 25 millimeters across here, so that's what, 6 feet, so that's probably too wide. Actually, a sheet would be about 3 feet, but it's up to you. And of course, when they're overlaid on a roof, it probably looks more scale, but if you want to make the actual scale size sheets, it's easy. You just cut them to the right size, that's all. So that's how it's done. Of course, then there's the painting process to come after that, but that's entirely up to you.
Well, as you can see, folks, it's not too difficult. It's just a matter of getting the correct aluminium profile and having a little tool to actually scribe the aluminium foil. But otherwise, it's pretty damn easy. So, yeah, I'll leave it with you. So I'll see you next time. Cheers, Gormo.